Y'all planning for this?
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Schlansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, where we are going to talk about the disgusting, stinky topic of head trash. Every single human being has it, whether you're a financial advisor, whether it's one of your team members, or it's even your clients. I cannot tell you how many conversations I have as a financial advisor that they turn to me and say, really, you're my life coach, you're my therapist, you're my counselor, you really help me work through these incredibly difficult conversations. And that is because we talk about head trash and doubts and insecurities and feelings of being unworthy. At The Perfect RIA, we often joke about, well, of course, if you do that, all your clients are going to leave you. You're going to be bankrupt and destitute. Your wife's going to divorce you. Your kids will never talk to you. And you're going to be living in a van down by the river. Now, once we've recognized that as our absolute worst fear, when we try to implement something, when we try to change a process, when we try to implement surge maybe for that first time in your office, your immediate instinct is, this isn't going to work. Oh God, what am I doing? I'm about to lose all of my clients, all of my income, and all of these things start unraveling mentally in your brain. Now, once you've articulated what those extreme worst fears are, generally that planning mentality, that inspirational side of you kicks in and you say, hold on a second, that's not true. That's probably not going to happen. You're not going to lose all of your clients. You might lose some. You're not going to lose all of your income as long as there is air in your lungs and blood in your veins and thoughts in your head. So you start walking yourself back off of that ledge. But let's talk about how head trash creeps in and what the best strategies are for compartmentalizing it, taking that trash out, and dealing with it on a daily basis. And I want this to help you as the listener, but I really want it to help everyone whose lives you touch. And that could be your team because you're the leader of that ship. That could be your coworkers because you really want to see the best in them. That could be your spouse who struggles with their own feelings of self-worth. That happens a lot in the financial planning space, oftentimes because financial advisors end up being the higher income earners. And then that creates a lot of economic disparity in households about self-worth. This could also be for your kids. If you're raising littles, whether they're your own biological children, you've adopted, their stepchildren, their neighborhood kids that you want to make a powerful difference on, or they're your nieces and nephews, everyone that you come in contact with, that you have an opportunity to lead in a spiritual and mental dialogue about dealing with head trash, taking it out, and making sure it doesn't corrupt and manifest your life, prohibiting you from achieving the greatness that is within, is someone that you should be talking to about head trash and how to deal with it, how to take out the head trash. So think in your mind right now, all those doubts and insecurities about when you feel not good enough. If you're a financial advisor, how about this one right off the bat? When a client looks at you and says, why should I pay you that much? What value am I getting out of this relationship? Maybe it's when you're onboarding a new client, maybe when it's you're about to go and raise their fees, but they turn that table and they ask you for justification on why they should pay you for what is essentially your personal advice. That's what we're in the business of selling. If you're a team member and your financial advisor comes to you and says, hey, I'm trusting you to do right by my clients, I'm going to be out of contact for X amount of time, you feel a lot of internalized pressure and responsibility. Oh, dear God, do I know what I'm doing? Since maybe I don't have a professional education or collegiate education, maybe I don't have licenses and designations, maybe I really am an imposter and I don't know what I'm doing here or how I was able to keep my job so long. We all have these doubts and insecurities that creep up in us. I was just listening to an incredible story about an NFL player who took an injury in 2017, became paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors, of course, said he would never walk again. His wife rallied in support, would chew out every single doctor who came in with that type of negative energy. His mother would camp outside of his hospital door every single day he was hospitalized. And before anyone was allowed admittance into her son's room, they had to affirm and believe two things. One, that they believe that he would walk again, that they would 100% fully, faithfully, spiritually commit to the resolution that he would walk again despite every medical diagnosis. And second of all, that they would affirm that in the presence of him in his hospital bed, they would not be sad. They would not cry. They would not feel remorse. They would not feel pity for him, but instead they would come in a positive, affirming, and jovial spirit. And if you dare to break down and cry in her son's room, she would boot you like the biggest bodyguard possible. Why? Because she didn't want her son to shoulder the burden and responsibility of other people's feelings. And if you have been in a situation where you have experienced significant grief or loss, you understand this better than anyone, because when somebody comes up to you and says, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to say to you, and they start breaking down, you are in this terrible place of now having to make everything better for them. So how did this mother get so fierce? She was also married to a spiritual man, a chaplain for the NFL, and they raised their son to believe that every single person is born with an internal trash bag. And a lot of times, day to day, we fill it with our own trash. We fill it with our own rubbish. And he imparted to his son that it is his responsibility as a spouse, as a father, as a human being in society to recognize when other people's trash is too heavy for them to carry alone. And it was his responsibility, when he recognized the trash was too heavy, to gather that trash and help the person take it out. And because you listen to the Perfect RIA podcast and you know how much we talk about best practices and execution and always striving for powerful ways that we can change the financial planning industry, you understand this. You probably identify with so many people that you can see the expression on the face, the tone of their voice, the countenance when you walk in the room, that they are carrying around a lot of trash, and you feel an eternal responsibility to help them take it out. And you might be phenomenal at recognizing when other people have head trash, but what happens when it's your head trash? What happens when it's you who needs help carrying it out? And you might feel a lot of shame and a lot of privacy around your own mental head trash because you are the person who shoulders burdens for others. And you are not the type of person who goes around and complains or unloads or gives other people your worries, your doubts, your insecurities, because you're not supposed to have any, right? You're supposed to be the problem solver for everyone. You are the type of person that everyone in your friend group says is the most adult person that they know, the most successful, the most put together. They are the ones that are constantly reinforcing to the community of your friends, your coworkers, your peers, your clients, how wonderful you are and how you help them solve so many of their life problems. So who do you turn to? Who do you unload on? Who do you give your burdens to? Many of you listening share a similar faith to my own, in which we believe in a God that is willing to shoulder every burden that we possibly have in this lifetime. But that's also a very silent exchange when we pray, when we think, when we meditate, whatever you call your spiritual connection to something else, something greater than just yourself in this world. It is generally a very quiet experience. There's not a lot of feedback that we're getting when we put this energy out into the world. And for some of you listening, that experience of you communicating, you praying, you meditating, you connecting with your deity may be enough. It may be fulfilling. You may give to God and let go and find that to be adequate. But for those of you that need a community or feel guilty for wanting a community, remember that where there is no guidance, a people will fall. But in the abundance of counselors, there is safety. And that comes to us from Proverbs, right? Because each of us has received a gift and we need to use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace and passion and love and understanding that He has bestowed in each of us. So there's nothing wrong with wanting a community of counselors, wanting a peer group of academics and people that you can bounce ideas off of, and also address these real concerns that you have, these doubts, doubts, these fears, these insecurities. And there are two ways here at the Perfect RIA that we tackle that ambition. And the first one is masterminds. So if you haven't attended a mastermind before, this is where you get a group of like-minded professionals in your particular either community or career space or some other identifying trait that maybe you guys share in common. You meet regularly. So one of the big things here is that you can't just do this virtual, in my opinion. I think you got to pick yourself up. You got to go join a group, because if you're anything like me, when it's virtual, I've got my camera on, I've got my computer up, but I'm probably doing 3 or 4 other things because the pace of the conversation maybe isn't as fast as I would like it to go, or maybe I'm not getting value out of what's happening. Whatever the excuse is, I'm finding a reason to disengage and get other conquering done. But when you're in person, you really have to shut all those devices off. You've got to be present. You've got to be in the moment. You've got to pick up on other people's vibes and energy. You've got to listen empathetically. And especially, like, if you've ever attended the Perfect RIA's masterminds, holy cow. Not only will you be in a group of like-minded peers that are having the same struggles, the same doubts, the same insecurities. We all have our variances, right? They might be a little different for each of us, but when we get back to those root of things, it all ends with us losing all of our clients, being absolutely broke, and living in a van down by the river, right? So you're around these people that have those same concerns that you do. And when you're in these mastermind groups, it's pretty darn intimate. I mean, we never allow, I think, more than 10 people in the group. So we all have an opportunity to go around the room and share. And then we do a day where it's called the hot seat. And the hot seat is where we put you as the center focus of the conversation. And you've got to unpack not only what your goals are and ambition, right? Because that's a lot about what the Perfect RIA is establishing goals, policies, processes in the pursuit of perfection. That is what we are after, not because we're egomaniacs, but because we believe we were put on this earth in order to impact as many lives as possible. And as financial planners, we have a unique opportunity to radically change lives. And this goes down to every single heartbeat. How many clients can you think of right now where you know that they're the one? They are the one in their family that broke a tradition of economic impoverishment. How many clients can you think of that they broke a cycle within their family? And maybe it was a dysfunctional, maybe it was impoverished, maybe it was an undereducated or underprivileged. But I guarantee you probably have clients that you relate to because you watch them bootstrap themselves up and have the wherewithal to hire a financial planner, because in the United States of America, we do not teach our children about money. Any lessons that we learn about money are learned from our parents and how we watch them spend money or lose money growing up. I cannot think of another profession that allows us to have so much impact on not only the single individual, but the husband and the wife and the husband and wife and whatever that situation is, in order to change the lives of their children. I cannot tell you how many clients have said, hey, I've taken what you've told me and I've told my children. This is now how we're running things in our household, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes as I did. And I want them to get started early, because I did not hire you until I was in my 40s. Had you grabbed me right out of college when I got my first real job, before I knew what money really was, my God, life would have been so much more simple. And I want that for my children. Floyd and I, when we meet with financial clients or planning clients today, we have so many adult children that knock down our door that say, hey, I just am entering my profession. I've got my first real job. I've got my first real benefits package. What do I do? And I love working with those adult children because they are willing to take advice and they are willing to pay for advice. But we cannot change lives. We cannot empower people. We cannot help them make a difference if we are not taking introspective time to make a difference in our own lives. So joining these masterminds, joining these peer groups that you are radically getting something out of, and that's where you've got to be super discerning about who you join. There are a lot of business organizations, rotaries, clubs that you can join. A lot of times financial advisors join these groups with the idea of that's how they're going to prospect or market. If you're successful with that, fantastic. I don't find a lot of success in that myself, but if you have, great. But these people have to challenge you. These people have to make you uncomfortable. You need to be able to financially and emotionally undress with these people. And if they're your peers, or if there's somebody that you're going to see be sitting in the pew on Sunday with, you might not be comfortable doing that. So find your tribe, find your organization, find your group. If you're a member of the Perfect RA, you probably already found that. And if you haven't raised your hand and said, hey, I need to be hooked up with a group of like-minded peers, here's what I'm after, then you need to email us. You need to jump into the Backstage Forum. You need to start a mastermind group. You need to join one of the masterminds that we host every single year, but you have to find your community. And there's a lot of truth and comfort in finding people that are complete strangers to who you are, because now you don't have all that relationship building behind you, right? You don't have to have those feelings of shame or embarrassment when you're talking to somebody that maybe you know from attending several conferences, or they're a coworker of yours, and you don't want them to see you in those states of vulnerability. So sometimes complete stranger groups of saying, hey, I fit these different demographics, I fit these different career goals, do you have anyone that I can connect with, can be very powerful. Masterminds are so important, not only for you as a financial advisor, so that you can articulate your head trash, you can deal with people that are problem solvers and can tell you, no, really, you do have a problem, or hey, that problem's between your ears and here's what you need to do to compartmentalize it. You're going to deal with solution-oriented people. Really important for you as the financial advisor. This is refilling your cup. This is you leaning on a council of like-minded peers to help you get where you want to be going. This is also really important for your team. At Shalansky & Associates, we have 2 leads, and they run our operations and our relationship management team. We just sent them down to Arizona. They all rented an Airbnb with 3 other practices. We brought in a day coach to work with every single one of them, and then they ping-ponged with their peers. What works in your office? What are the breaking points? How do you phrase this? How do you deal with that? They sat down, they had an agenda, they problem solved, and when they came back from that, we were getting pictures and texts and thank yous from our leads while they were there, and said, this has been so incredibly powerful. It was really great for us to talk to other professionals that work and operate in the same space and learn about what they're doing, and also get to share about what we're doing, because they offered us really positive, constructive feedback. And our leads weren't clamoring to do this. They didn't jump up and down and say, oh my gosh, could you please put together a mastermind? This is something we sort of forced upon them, right? Especially with my ops team, which are pretty hard people to move because they like steadiness and consistency. And I knew, talking about this with the ops team, there would be no sense of joy or excitement about doing it. I know that leading up to it, there would be very little participation, but I also knew that once she was there and once she started talking to peers and could kind of turn off the office and start focusing on her career, she would take radical strides to get involved with that. And that would be a very positive experience for her, just maybe not leading up to it in fear and anticipation of what that event might be like. Now, my relationship manager, total cheerleader, right? Literal college cheerleader. So I knew that she was going to rally behind this and think it was so great and a wonderful opportunity. And she did, right? And then as soon as she went there, she was connecting with people. She was able to lead the conversations and sort of really get the ops people out of their own way and participating in the event. And both of them, while they were there and then once they returned, said, I cannot believe that you thought to put this together for us. This was so great. We really kind of experienced why you guys get so excited about going to masterminds and the energy that you have when you return from those events. We get it. We see it. It was really powerful for us to connect with peers. And guess what that coach did? And by the way, it was a coach, right? It was a third party. It wasn't one of us going there to that event. Why? Because 1, it needed to feel special. And 2, there's power with a stranger in a uniform. So we're all familiar with Micah's rule. We all have these little marital rules, right? Micah calls it the dishwasher rule. And he says, if your wife does not see you do the dishes, did you actually do the dishes? Whenever Micah does the dishes in his household, which is actually very frequently, he will holler out to his wife, my sister-in-law Kelly, and say, hey Kelly, just loading up the dishwasher. Did you need to add a plate or a cup or a spoon? Whatever that is. And she'll get a chuckle out of it because now she's known after so many years of marriage, he's doing it intentionally so that she later cannot say, you never help with the household. I'm the one that always has to do these things, etc. And in my house with my spouse, I call it the stranger in a uniform rule. I could be a complete expert on a subject and do it for a profession every single day of my life. And my spouse will still doubt my information was creditable, but a person, a complete stranger walking down the road might say the exact same thing that I said to them, and they will have more authority over my spouse's decision than I will. It's the stranger in a uniform. Come on, be honest with yourself. How many times have you told your spouse something that a complete stranger says the exact same thing, and what they said holds more truth than what you did? And it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they don't believe in you. It's because they just need to hear it from a stranger in a uniform. So when we hire an outside coach and we bring it in for our team, it's a stranger in a uniform that gets to tell them these things. And also, we're not omnipotent. Somebody that's completely unbiased to our team and doesn't know their background or culture or how things work might pick up on things that we completely miss because we're so inundated and so saturated in those cultural environments. The next part of this is that we also give our team members a mission. So every time they go to something for their professional development, if it's an online course, if it's a book that they're reading, if it's a conference, or if it's a peer group mastermind, they have to come away with one implemental idea. So one idea that they can immediately take action on and implement. And it doesn't have to be radical, right? Sometimes we forget that we need to get back to basics. Sometimes we do things so well and they work so successfully that we stop doing. Think about your own practice and you're like, oh, you know what? We used to do this, but we stopped doing it. Well, why'd you stop doing it? And if you really looked at it, you'd stop doing it because it was so successful. If it was a referral campaign or a prospecting event or a client event, we stopped doing it because we got such a positive response. We didn't have a pain point and therefore we just quit doing it. So my team can bring back an idea that we used to do and we stopped doing and we need to perfect on. They can come back with a new script, a new strategy, a new word, a new way to say things, but they've got to get something out of that event. One hack that I will tell you, and I do this myself, is every time I attend a conference or professional development session where I'm physically flying to another state, is I take a buffer day. And most of the time you'll see at the end of a conference, everyone's got their suitcase kind of in the atrium in their lobby, because as soon as that session wraps up, they're on the next flight out because they got to get home. Women, I am speaking to you in particular. If you suffer from mom guilt and you think that you have to hurry up and get home because you have left your spouse with the kids or you're missing time with them, etc., make sure that you're balancing yourself and checking yourself. You already went through the energy of leaving and going to a conference and getting all of this great ideas. And if you're anything like me early on in my career, I would have note pages full of ideas and things that I want to implement and things that I wanted to market or get done, or client emails I wanted to send out, especially because I handle a lot of our marketing and communication in our RIA. And so I would have all of this bursting energy and I would be trying like in a fury on the airplanes to get it all out, because the second I walk through that door, I need to be present with my family. They're going to be super excited to see me. They're going to want to catch me up on everything that I missed. And we're going to be joking around. Maybe I've now got to help with the dogs and the kids and the homework and of course the cooking, because I do all the cooking in the house. But now I won't have any time, space, or energy for all of those things that I went and learned and wanted to implement. So really critical that you give your space buffer time. And if you went to the hassle of going to the conference and traveling anyway, why not stay that night? Get all of those things brain dumped out and to your team and executed on, so that when you do get home, you're completely present and feeling really confident about everything that you learned because you just brain dumped, executed it, got it out of your head. And now you're able to enjoy being around your family in a way that before you would have been trying to be present and mentally running on all of those ideas that you have in your head. So that's a great post-conference hack that you want to use every time you go into something for professional development for you and for your team. Carve out that extra time. Make sure that you're able to execute on all those brilliant ideas that you just brainstormed after you have attended an event. So in addition to masterminds, what are the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis? Because most mastermind groups meet quarterly, some are semi-annual. The ones that are annual might not be challenging you enough. You want to think of masterminds almost as your council of coaches, right? The ones that are going to make sure that that you actually hit your target, hit your goals, and keep you really accountable. At the Perfect RA, we practice extreme accountability in order to hit our anticipated goals. But masterminds are not daily. So what are you doing on a regular day-to-day basis in order to deal with your head trash and make sure you get it out to the rubbish bin every single week on time? This is where we talk a lot about morning success rituals. Oftentimes, people begrudgingly get up, then you kind of shuffle over to the coffee pot, maybe make some tea, read all the news, the headlines, go through your emails, see what your day consists of. And that is a very reactionary mindset instead of being proactive. So if you're setting yourself up for failure because your morning routine is kind of lousy, then you need to make some changes immediately. So the very first thing that you could look at is how you're getting up. I use Sleep Cycle. It's an app for the iPhone. I think the iPhone now does naturally do this, but you set up wake up windows of time, and so it's not going off. One of the things I absolutely hate is the sound of an alarm clock when I'm being literally ripped out of a REM sleep. I'm very groggy. It takes me longer time to kind of get the brain going in hyperdrive, and that's where I like to operate at. So instead I use Sleep Cycle, and that allows me to have a wake up window. And then the very next thing I do is as soon as I kind of get out of bed and I head outside. Now I live in Alaska. It's the Arctic. Is it cold? Yes, 100%. But I'm a really big believer in the circadian clock. And I think that if you want a higher dose of energy in the morning, try to get your first 5 or 10 minutes to be outside. Even during the wintertime when it's very dark outside, that ambient light is going to be really rejuvenating, even more powerful than a cup of coffee. If possible, starting your day off with a walk outside, outdoors to get that fresh air is a really great way to begin. I used to think that I did not have the time for a walk in the morning, and a lot of mornings I just don't have all 20, 30 minutes, but I do have about 5 or 10. And especially because we have dogs in our household, it's a really good, helps me prioritize getting outside and walking, because now I feel I have to take care of them. Now I feel it's part of my chores or responsibility in the morning, where before, if it was just for me and my benefit, I maybe would have put it on the back burner and not prioritize that. That's just how I work. So now I get up in the morning, I get outside, I've got that 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes really cold, and I'm very excited and anxious to get back inside, especially during the winter months. And I have, when I'm outside, that's where I give my Thanksgiving. I do a lot of prayer, serenity, focus, gratitude for the day, for the air that's in my lungs, the blood that of course is through my veins, and the thoughts inside of my head. And I make sure that in those giving moments of gratitude that I am giving thanks for all of the blessings in my life, big and small. So some days it's just for the cup of coffee that I'm super thankful for. And most of the time it's for the people and the culture that I surround myself with. All the people in my life are positive and powerful and inspiring individuals. So I have many things that I am thankful for every single day. Some people write these down. If you need to start the day with a list of gratitude items, things that you're thankful for, fantastic. The next thing that I do is I always try to tell my son, good morning, little conqueror. This is a little Brian Tracy move. My son is a sloth. I swear to God, if he was reincarnated, he would come back as a sloth. I tend to move at a much higher speed. I'm a little bit more ambitious. He is internally driven, but he's an extreme introvert. So instead of how I used to spend his early teen years with get out of bed. What are you doing with your life? Come on, hit the ground running. Why aren't you thankful to be alive? Why aren't you conquering? Why aren't you doing all of these things? Instead, now I change it to, hey, good morning, little conqueror. And I just want to send a message of positivity to him. I want him to start out his day thinking that he is a warrior. And I am trying to put those positive thoughts in his head versus me constantly questioning why he moves backwards through time. I try to delay my stimulus so I don't have a cup of coffee until the first hour after I'm awake. Sometimes in the winter months, it's the first couple of minutes, but I try to delay that stimulus just so I can get that bigger caffeine rush in just a little bit. Then the next thing I do after I've wrapped up sort of those morning logistics and I've gotten ready for the day is I look at my list of things that I'm going to conquer. And that's a handwritten list for me. So I keep a legal notepad on my computer, on my desk next to my computer, and I write down with check mark boxes all of the things that I'm going to get done that day that have been priority from the night before. Now notice I'm not opening up my email. My email does not come alive. I have a scheduled time of the week that I check all of the inboxes for which companies that I'm working on that specific day. I use time blocking strategies. So So I don't want my email to become my to-do list. I don't want it to become the reactionary form of communication that most people make it. Email is still mail. And so if I open up my email and I see that somebody has emailed me with an important question, wants to make sure that I look at it right away, etc., I much hasten this to the fact that I wouldn't, if I received this via post, run out to my mailbox, open up the letter, and then come out and get my stationery and scribe a letter right back in return. Now, do people send important emails because we have the technology to allow instant communication? Yeah, 100%. And does somebody go through my email box every day? Yes, they do, scrubbing and looking for those really important items. It's not me, because it's going to kill my productivity. So instead, it's my executive assistant, and she goes through and organizes, get rid of everything, and she can do everything in my email box except for provide financial or legal advice. And if I have emails that I need to go through and provide financial advice, or I've got a legal agreement that I need to read, understand, and sign and get back to the person, then she will organize it on my calendar for me to do so I can be very intentional and proactive. If you have email on your phone, we've said it a lot in this podcast, delete the app, delete it right away. Because if you're waiting in the car pickup line to pick up your children, if you're in the bank teller line, if you're waiting at the grocery store and you're checking your email and responding back, you are sloppy. That is sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. You are not being intentional about the work that you're doing. You're not prioritizing your client and giving them an instant response. You might as well have given them no response. If you get an urgent form of communication, your team should be elevating that to you. And can you step outside of your scheduled times and call clients? I'm not speaking about emergencies. Somebody dies, somebody gets hurt, somebody's kid has an overdose. That is a phone call that immediately interrupts my day, and I don't care what I have going on, and I work with my financial planning client that way. But that's not what I'm speaking to. And you don't have that many emergencies in your life unless they are man-made. And my clients deserve the absolute best for me, and that is time when I have blocked out on my calendar to respond back to their inquiries, give them all of the information, and make sure I'm being intentional and deliberate in my communication. We charge a lot of money for the work that we do, and my work's not going to be sloppy if I can prevent it from being so. So if you look at your morning success ritual and you're analyzing it, and one of the very first things that you do is open up your email inbox, is that something you can immediately change? Can you start taking action right now to look at your calendar and carve out specific days, specific times, and maybe you have to do it daily. Maybe you feel that you cannot not look at your email if you don't do it every single day. All right, well, do it every day, but give yourself 1 hour. Give yourself a specific amount of time. Do not constantly live in your email box and constantly check it for work to do. That's being reactionary and not proactive. And if I do that, if I live in my email box, which is so easy for us to do, then everything I've written down on my handwritten list of things that I wanted to conquer and goals I wanted to achieve and things I wanted to do that move my needle, right? That move my needle towards growth are going to become second. They're going to go on the back burner. And that to-do list for today is going to be my to-do list for every day moving forward, because I chose to be reactionary instead of proactive about the work that I'm doing. What is your morning success ritual? What do you do on a daily basis that puts you in the headspace, the spiritual space, the physical space to really go and conquer? And if you don't have a morning success ritual, and I'm not talking about like, oh, I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I go to the bathroom, I talk to the dog. No, I mean, what are your goals? What are things that you're going to do every single morning to set yourself up for absolute success? You need to write them down. That needs to become your agenda, and that you need to take action on. All right, the perfect RA is 100% about actionable items. Today, we really talked about head trash and what to do in order to mitigate those feelings of imposter syndrome, those feelings of doubt and insecurities, and for you to recognize that as a financial advisor, it's happening to you, it's happening to your peers, it's happening to your clients, and you are probably profound, if not gifted, in dealing and helping other people with their problems, but you might be guilty of neglecting your own. So what are you going to do about it? Take action now. Join a mastermind, somebody outside of maybe your local community that you can be completely vulnerable with, but also look and be super discerning. You want a mastermind group that's going to be actionable and that's going to push you to in an uncomfortable place. At the Perfect RA, we're always about the pursuit of perfection. perfection. And that means getting really uncomfortable with things that make us, a little sick to our stomach. Do we want to do that? Do we want to make that big of a bold comment? Do we want to try to achieve X amount of goal that seems unattainable or unrealistic? Because we're all going to end up with no clients, no money, and be broke down by the river, living in a van, right? Those are always those worst case fears. So who are you surrounding yourself with? If you have negative energy, change what you're eating, change what you're consuming, and change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And make sure that you, much like that NFL player's mom, are setting yourself up for absolute success by only allowing people in your environment that are going to propel you towards greatness. Remember, boundaries are important, and they are not important because they keep people out, but they are important because they keep you in your greatness. And if you are leading a financial advisory office and you are not implementing these same strategies for your team, you are doing them a disservice, and you will only ever get them at their mediocre level. They will never achieve greatness because you have not set them up for that type of success. And then I want you to evaluate your morning success ritual. What are you doing every single day when you get up to put yourself in that best set of mind frame to go and conquer and achieve all of your goals? And if you think you kind of have a morning success ritual, but you don't really have it written down, and I mean written down so predictable that your small child can tell you exactly what you do every single morning, then you don't have a ritual. You have an idea of what your morning should look like. Stop being reactionary. Start being proactive. Take control of your day. Get out of your email inbox. Make sure you're writing down goals that make sure you're moving towards the needle. Do big things. Do them right off the get-go, right in the morning. Change your circadian rhythm. Change what you're ingesting in the morning. Change what you're doing, because you are going to go and change lives.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA